everyone, welcome back to Feather Stitch House. My name's Rebecca and each week on this channel I post videos about embroidery and textile art to help you get creative. We're in week 34 of our Week in It project this year, Pick of the Pots. Each week I take a pick out of my 3 plant pots. One contains colours, the second contains shapes and the third contains stitches, and we use these picks to create a piece of improvised textile art that goes in our little Pick of the Pots book. It's not the only stitch along that I'm running. I also have a project called Postcards from the Hedge. It started back in January over on Ko-fi, but in the last couple of weeks it has launched on this channel through memberships. So if you are interested in joining in with that project, each week we make a fabric postcard based on a feature of the British countryside, and we've covered so many textile art techniques I've lost count. They're all very accessible. The tutorials are really step by step, and depending on your tier there are extra perks along the way as well. So if you're interested in finding out more, there is a link in the description below that will take you to the memberships page where you can find out more about each tier and sign up if you wish. So I am going to head into my studio now for this week's pick. Can't wait to find out what we're going to be making. So let's head in and let's get picking. Right, I forgot to start the timer last week, so I'm going to start it straight away this week, and we're gonna let's just get straight into it. Let's do our pick. Gosh, we seem to be motoring through the weeks. I can't quite believe how far through we are. Right, what's our colour? Muddy. Well, that's a change of tone again, isn't it? Muddy colours. You can interpret that how you like. So you could do like really earthy tones, or you could do like dirty colours. I'm sorry if there's noise in the background. There's a lawnmower going outside. Muddy colours. So yeah, so like what do I mean by muddy colours? I mean like dirty looking pinks, dirty looking greens that have got like colours that have got a bit of black or grey in them that sort of knocks the colour back. Tea staining makes things look a little bit muddy. You could even bury some fabric in the garden for a couple of days and then use it as it is. You can interpret that however you want. Right, muddy. Bit vague, isn't it? Right, what's our shape? Quarter circle. Not the most inspiring, but fairly straightforward, I would think. So that's exactly what it sounds like. I think I've got an idea. I'm going to borrow something from another textile artist, I think, that I've used a couple of times. Oh, I've pinged one. I've got to do the one that I pinged, surely. It leaps at me. Right. Raised chain stitch. Oh, okay, that's an interesting one. Right, so we're back to stitch demos this week. Raised chain stitch. I'm just going to have to refresh my memory of that. I forgot to put it in the pot. It's not one that I use often. Right, let's get these out of the way. So we have muddy as our colour, quarter circle, and raised chain stitch. Not entirely certain at the minute how I'm going to pair these, but I'm sure something will come to me. So I'm going to demonstrate the stitch and then we'll make something. Okay, so this is a 2-stage stitch. I've started by drawing 2 parallel lines and I've got a muddy colour. I got a lovely muddy coloured variegated thread, but it's a stranded thread and it's much easier to demonstrate this with a pearl cotton. So we're going to start by making a set of foundation stitches. So I'm going to come up on my left hand line. I want to stitch horizontally across to my right, and then I want to go down on the right a little way and stitch across to my left. So we're making a ladder basically. I want them pretty evenly spaced. If it helps you, you can mark intervals on your lines so that your stitches stay horizontal and evenly spaced, but for the purposes of demonstrating, I'm just going to eyeball it. So just straight stitches, nothing complicated at this point. Okay, so like that, I'm going to finish that thread off on the back, and then I'm going to get a second colour. You can do it all in the same colour. I think you get quite a nice effect with the second colour, but it's going to make it much easier for you to see what I'm doing. Right, I've got a second colour. I've gone as muddy as I can, but you can make these quite wide if you want to and work more than one line of raised chain on them, and raised chain makes a lovely sort of textured line. There are a lot of similarities in technique between this and palestrina stitch, so we're going to do that sort of hooking underneath the stitch and catching loops like we did a couple of weeks ago with palestrina stitch. So I'm going to start right in the centre of my ladder, just above that first stitch, like that, and I want to come over the top and slide my needle underneath that horizontal bar and up to the left of where my working thread has come through. So I'm basically just wrapping my thread over that horizontal bar. Now I want to go across to the right of where that green thread has come out, and I want to take my needle back down underneath that horizontal band, and I want to catch this loop. So this is where it's like chain stitch. We're catching this loop of thread that we've created underneath. So underneath that horizontal bar, pull through and catch that loop on your working thread, and that is your first raised chain stitch. So now I'm going to move down to my next bar. I don't have to go back through the fabric this time. I'm going to go over the bar and up to the left underneath it, like that. I'm going to loop over the top. I'm going to loop underneath as if I was making a normal chain stitch, and I want to come down underneath that horizontal bar to the right of where that joining line, so where that thread has gone from the top bar to the second bar, I want to be to the right of that, and I want my loop underneath my needle so I can catch my loop on the working thread. Okay, so that's our second chain stitch. Right, up underneath the next line, so we're taking our thread over the top, we're going to go up to the left underneath that next bar, loop our thread around underneath, and we're going to go down to the right of that link line there and pull through. And if you're looking like you're going a bit wobbly, don't worry, you can just slide it, because we haven't gone through the fabric anywhere other than here. You can just slide the stitches across. Right, so next line, we're going to go up underneath that bar, loop my thread around, and then I'm going to go down from the right, from top to bottom under the bar and over the top of my loop, like that. So next bar, up to the left, loop the thread and down to the right, making sure we catch that loop. So up to the left, loop around, down to the right, up to the left, loop and down to the right. So once you've got your head around what you need to do to create this stitch, it's really easy. You can see how easily you can adjust. So we actually get an effect that's very similar to Palestrina stitch, but we're doing it with horizontal bars rather than through the fabric. It's a bit of a two-handed one, this stitch. So always go up first and then down under those bars. Making sure you catch your loop. So up under the bar and down. Up under the bar and then down. And when you get to the end of your line, you can just do a little bit of readjusting if you need to. And then we're going to go back through the fabric. We're going to hop over that caught loop just like we would with a chain stitch and anchor it at the back. And that essentially is raised chain stitch. You can see why it's called raised chain stitch. It's sitting quite far off the surface. Now let me just show you how you would go about putting in more than one line on those bars. So you can leave it just like that if you want. It does look very much like a spine, doesn't it? But I can start a new line here and I can repeat the process just next to that line of stitching that I've just made. So there I've got 3 lines of raised chain. You can hardly see those foundation stitches, but you can see it makes a really lovely fill. So there's loads of things that you can do with this. You could do some offset bars, so you could stitch bars closer together and do your raised chain across every other one, and then your next line you could offset, so stitch around the bars that you haven't stitched on the first pass. But what a lovely stitch that is, really nice. So it looks complicated but really isn't. So that is raised chain stitch. Looking forward to making something with this. I haven't used this stitch for a while. It does do curves, and also it looks really nice stitched in yarn as well. So have a play and see what works and what you enjoy, and then we'll get on and make something. So I'll be back shortly. This is the felt I'm going to use today. It's a lovely, sorry, I always write the colour that I'm going to use it for on the back, but it's a lovely sort of marl brown. It's 100% wool, this one. It's really nice and it's got all those flecks in it. I thought it looked a kind of muddy brown rather than like wood or chestnut or something like that. So that's going to be my background, and I've got a little bit of this fabric here and I've fused an offcut of fusible fleece. I used this in week 32 when we did ring. It's the stuff that I use. So it's got fusible glue on one side, it's fleece on the other. It's often used in bag making, and I've cut out from it 4 quarter circles, so 1 circle, and I've cut it into quarters, and I'm going to use this as my base. So I was thinking about how to combine a shape with the stitch, and I think I've come up with a plan, so I hope you like this. I'm just going to pop the 4 circles or quarter circles on like this. So I've split them apart, so I'm essentially making a kind of oval shape. I had planned to, probably see a line, I had planned to cut them, but then it's not a quarter circle, is it? So I'm going to do it like this instead. Right, I've got a little bit of grey. If you've got a matching colour, you can use that as well. This is just machine cotton. I'm struggling to see at the moment. I need some new glasses, and I find that I keep coming off the out of shot because I need it a bit closer to me to be able to see. So apologies if I disappear off the edge. Right, what I'm going to do is just applique stitch these down. So coming up through both layers, down through just the back layer, along a bit, down through just the back layer. So this is not especially exciting to watch. Okay, I've stitched that down. I decided I'd just go around everything in the end. Thought it would make life easier for the next stage. Right, so I'm going to put in some markings to help me with my raised chain. So I'm going to, that line that I'd marked on the back, I'm going to put onto the front here. And hopefully when I put my raised chain on, you'll have a better sense of what it is I'm making this week. So I've deliberately not said because I thought it would be fun. Don't know whether this will show up particularly well. I can see it. So I'm going to put markings there, and I'm going to mark on the positions of my ladder that I need to put in for my raised chain. So that's one ladder that's going to go around the top. If I come in a bit closer, you'll probably be able to see better. And I might switch to white for the bottom because you'll definitely be able to see that better. So let's put in my horizontal at the bottom. It always takes a while for the ink to start coming out of these white refills that I use. I get asked about this all the time. People email me and leave comments saying, where do I get white friction pens from? I don't. It's a friction pen body. I took the black ink out and I buy refills that fit in white, and they are made specifically for fabric. So friction pens are great and they do work, but they're not really made for fabric, so the ink doesn't flow particularly freely on fabric. They're great on paper, but on fabric it doesn't flow particularly well. And also sometimes I find with friction ink it leaves ghosts, and so you iron it away and sometimes you're left with a sort of white ghost of the ink. Whereas with pens that are made specifically for fabric, I don't find that I get that in the same way. So I'm just going to put a bar right on the edge. Can't see that, but hopefully as the ink dries and develops, I'll be able to see it a bit more clearly. So right, so a long raised chain up here and a short section of raised chain down there. So I'm just going to use the thread. I've also put in my border, you might be able to see. I haven't ironed away the white, so it won't be especially clear. I'm going to put in my ladder. I'm not going to make you watch me do all of this raised chain because it's going to be exactly like the demo. So I'm going to cover up the edge of the quarter circles, creating a new quarter circle around the edge. So this is the perlé that I used for the demo of the stitch, and I've just got a bunch of muddy colours. So I've got a kind of muddy brown fabric for this part, and I've actually got a load of tea stained fabrics. Let me go out a bit. So these are all cottons that I stained in tea, and it makes all the colours go a little bit muddy, and so this is quite a nice way. If you don't have lots of sort of muted, muddy coloured fabrics, this is a great way of doing it. So it works best on cottons. Got just some cheap quilting cotton. It's very lightweight cotton. Got some Japanese yarn dye and a proper quilting cotton here. Just saved up my tea bags from making cups of tea for a few days, and then I put them in a bowl with my fabrics and covered them with water, and I left it, I think, for about 3 days. If you leave it any longer than that, it can go mouldy. And then I drained away the water. You can reuse it, but I didn't have any other fabric to stain. Rinse it, and then I put it through just a rinse cycle. I put them in a mesh laundry bag and put it through a rinse cycle just to make sure all of the tea is out. And it's quite unpredictable. You can't always know for certain what's going to happen with your colours. So some fabrics work much better than others, but these are ones that worked particularly well. So tea staining, really lovely way of changing the tone of colours and muddying them up a little bit. So that's how I'm going to bring in a bit of colour. So I'm just going to put this ladder in, and then I will start doing my raised chain. Okay, so let's do a raised chain. I'm going to start up here. I'll start in the middle, see how it goes. So I've just got some beigey sheepish thread. It's shade 254. It's called Moon Rock. Nice muddy sort of brown. And we're going to do our raised chain. So start at the top of the ladder, over the first rung and back under it, pointing up, and then loop around the bottom and come top to bottom to the right of that stitch you've just made, and make sure you come up inside that loop. So down to the next rung and up, round and down under the rung and through the loop. And I'm just going to work several rows of this. Around that curve. So I'm going to go around this curve, and then I'm also going to fill in this space here. So you can see I've put rungs across that gap. I'm going to fill in that space as well. You could go further into these quarter circles, but I wanted the quarter circles to be a bit more pronounced. So I'm going to stitch those in, and then I'll come back and we'll do something in here. Wonder if you can guess what it is. If you can, why not pause here and leave a comment having a guess at what I'm making. Okay, I thought they were a bit far apart when I stitched my first layer, so I've put in another ladder and I'm adding in a second colour in between, but I don't want the second layer to just sit on the top, so I just want to show you how I'm going to do it. So let's come in really close so that you can see. So I'm coming up, here's my ladder over the top. I've got a slightly different colour. I'm going to come up over the top and make my first stitch in the normal way, like that. Now if I just go down to the next line, it's going to sit over the top and obscure the first layer. So what I want to do is go underneath the bar on that first ladder before I make my next stitch. So then I make my next stitch and slide underneath the bar. So next stitch, and then under the bar. Under the bar. And then I'm going to tuck in my stitch as I go through, just above that first layer of stitching. So that's how it's going to look when I'm done. I'm going to stitch in the gap in that way all across here and all around this. So that's how it's looking. Can you work it out yet? I'll be back shortly. Right, there we go. I've finished all of my raised chain. I think that looks magic. Really like it. I like the effect, and if you want to, you could do the whole thing in raised chain, but I wanted my quarter circles in there. Right, I have cut some circles of different sizes out of my tea stained fabric, my muddy fabric, and I've got a little bit of thread left. I've also got some muddy colours as well, so I've got a blue and a purple and a green there. Maybe I'll use some of the purple. I love these earthy shades. So this is Anchor shade 871. I'll see if I can find a DMC equivalent. So circles, we want to turn them into quarter circles. I'm going to start with the biggest ones, so I'm going to fold them. I've actually left my pen marks on here, so let's just get rid of those because we don't need that, and we won't be able to press them afterwards because we'll ruin the effect. So I've just got an iron handy, so I'm going to fold them right side out into a quarter like that, and then I'm going to just catch down the very point of that folded circle, and you can put a couple of stitches in if you want to. Pressing it down with my thumb at the moment, but when I let it go, that is going to open out a little bit like that. I've got 3 of these large quarter circles. So for me, the raised chain stitch looked like wicker when I laid several lines of it together, and it's summer and I've been in the garden quite a lot, and I thought, wouldn't it be nice if we had like a garden shrug made out of wicker, so a sort of flat shallow basket that you use to collect up your harvest, and couldn't think of any quarter circle vegetables, so I thought we could do a basket of flowers instead. So I'm starting with the largest circles, and I've got slightly smaller ones in blue that I can lay over the top. So that excess fabric underneath the handle is kind of hidden by, or will be hidden by, the additional three-dimensional content. I'm not making life easy for myself, am I, with another 3D one, but it's not as 3D as maybe some of the others, so I think we'll be okay. So just a couple of stitches to hold those points in place. Oh look, it's cute. Try and make them face in different directions. You can even have some facing down if you want to, like tumbling over the edge. I don't want to cover up my raised chain, so I just want to be cautious with not going too high up and not having too many things tumbling over here. So I've got some orangey, muddy orange. So they're not the brightest flowers, they are muddy coloured, but it does allow us to get away from just brown and bring in some other colours. I didn't want it to be an all brown one. I thought there'd be a riot if I know there's quite a few of you out there that really didn't like the brown week that we did a little while ago, so I didn't want to cause too much pain and suffering out there. So different colours just muddied up with some tea, I thought would work quite nicely. So hopefully you get the idea, and then I've got two more sizes. I've got pink and a more yellowy one, so I'm just going to keep adding my flowers to my little quarter circle trug, and then I'll come back and show you the finished piece. Okay, so here we go. Here's our little garden trug and flowers made from raised chain stitch and quarter circles, and I'm quite pleased with the way that's turned out. It looks muddy enough for me, so I hope you agree. Let's grab our book then. So last week's little lizard, it's our first horizontal one for a while. Could have done it the other way up, but I wanted it more of a trug rather than a basket, so I went horizontal, and I'll just pop it in the book. Probably should have gone a little bit more central with it being horizontal, but what's the date? I'm going to have to check it. I've totally lost track. It is the 24th of the 8th, 25, and let's put our little pics on the back. So our colour was muddy, our shape was quarter circle, and our stitch was raised chain. And wasn't sure how that one was going to work when I did the pics, but actually I think it's turned out okay. So that's our piece for this week. I hope you've enjoyed that, and I hope that you enjoy the stitch as well. It is a really nice one to play around with. You can create some really lovely effects. So Don't forget to share in our private Facebook group, and as always, there's a link in the description below. Don't forget to sign up to membership of this channel if you want to. It starts at just 99p a month, or you can pay from $3.99 a month for the postcards from the Hedge Project. If you're sharing on Instagram, use hashtag FSHWingingIt2025, and don't forget to tag me at Featherstitch House so that I'm more likely to see your makes. Thanks so much for watching. I'll be back next week with another pick, so I will see you then. Take care. Bye.